The numbers have just came in for November for the auto market, and man, we're setting some records here. It's back on track to have a huge year in total. We're going to go over all the record-breaking details from each manufacturer, or at least the ones that post their numbers monthly. And also make sure you subscribe, because at the end of this month, we'll have the full calendar year details and results of all the sales of all the manufacturers after fourth quarter end. So if you guys enjoy this sort of sales update, which cars are doing well, which brands are doing well, which types of cars are doing well, etc. If you enjoy that, make sure you subscribe, smash the heck out of that like button, starting out automotive news, and then we're going to pop around all these different manufacturers who are posting their monthly sales. Also, if you guys like motorcycles, check out Kreifel Cycles. I just started my second channel, and that is focusing entirely on two-wheeled content. I'm getting a Moto Compacto today. That sort of content is going to be on my second channel. All right, so let's get into it. U.S. light vehicle sales rose 12% in November to 1.37 million. Light truck, which are, you could say light trucks are SUVs as well, and car sales are forecast to rise 7 to 11% across the industry in November, driven by retail gains, improved selection, fatter discounts, and an extra selling day. What does that mean? Well, there's one more selling day this past November compared to November of 2023. We have better availability, better inventory. We have more incentives being thrown on these vehicles to move them, year-end deals. This is all pulling people into the car market right now. And the last time we saw a pace of 16.67 million vehicles sold per year, which November put that back on track. The last time we saw that sort of pace was May of 2021. All right, let's get straight into the juicy bits. Ford reported a 14% rise in November. Hybrids up 18%. Just keep making the Maverick, right? Maverick hybrid all day long. Volume rose 13% at Ford division, 49% at Lincoln. Okay, I live in like retirement USA in Southwest Florida. I'm seeing the new Lincolns a lot, especially the Nautilus models out there. So that model seems to be super hot right now. Overall, Ford's pickup trucks rose 23%, with a big rebound in Rangers and F-150s up 27%. Crossovers up 8%. Of course, they don't have any sedans. They don't mention the Mustang in this. Toyota snapped a 2-month losing streak with U.S. sales rising about 5% in November, of course, on the backs of strong hybrids. So there was a rise of 4% on the Toyota end, ending 5 consecutive monthly declines for Toyota, but Lexus continuing to forge forward, up 9.3%. RAV4 down 3.9%. We should get a reveal of the new RAV4 in the first half of next year. Camry up 25%, fully hybrid this time around with the 2025 Camry. Corolla down 4%. Tacoma up 29%. You got to remember, Tacoma is still down a lot compared to its peak numbers just a few years ago. Last year was a really bad year for the Tacoma as they switched over production from the old model to the new model, and they're still working on ramping up that production. They have a lot of issues down there in Mexico, but it looks like it's getting back on track. All right, company sales of electrified vehicles, mainly due to hybrids, jumped 49%. Just shy of 100,000 units last month. We still don't have the full effect of the Grand Highlander and Lexus TX being on the market in the numbers that Toyota expects. It is no longer on stop sale. It is no longer on, I guess the recall still there. You still need to get your Grand Highlander and TX fixed. Okay, so we have the numbers here, and then we're going to go into Honda, Hyundai and Kia. We actually have those individual numbers here per brand. But let's get into the scorecard here. Acura is still down 10% on the year, but they had a slight improvement in the right direction last month. Remember, they're going to be having the ADX come out early next year. That's going to help their sales, I think, quite a bit. All right, Honda in general, up 16% for November, up 11% year over year. Honda is a very, very healthy company here in North America right now. Over in China, not so much the case, but unless you're a Chinese automaker, no one's doing good in China. All right, Tesla might be the exception. Genesis up 7.3%, up 35% on the month. They are gaining momentum. Hyundai up 4% on the year, 8.5% on the month. Kia Storming forward up 20% on the month. They're about even on the year, but it looks like they're going to finish positive on the year. And last year was already a record-breaking year for Kia. All right. Mazda, still guns blazing. 18%. Look, everyone else, Honda's double digits up. No one else on this list is up double digits on the year. Mazda smoking everyone, or at least the numbers that we have from the companies that are reporting, up about 19% on the year, still gaining market share as we in November, up 21% if you round up for November for Mazda. They are on track to break their all-time sales record here in North America. Very, very impressive stuff. All right, Subaru, up 8.2% on the month, up 5% on the year. They are still seeing a lot of success on their crossovers. Well, most people are, right? Most of these manufacturers are seeing success on their crossovers. Lexus steady, up 9.3% on the month and the year. Toyota up about, very steady, right? Up about 4% on the month and the year. So overall, the market is up 10%, at least according to these manufacturers or many other manufacturers that are not reporting, and up 6% on the year. So let's get right into Honda. What is Honda doing really well with? Well, they of course have their highlights, but I like getting right into their scorecard. It's I'm breaking it down model by model. Still the Accord. I just reviewed the Accord. So smooth, so luxurious, so well built and refined, but its sales are down still about 20% on the year. They had a slight improvement. I mean, we're going to focus not on daily selling rate because really the most important thing is month over month change. So we're going to focus on this column. I should probably get my highlighter out. Focus on this column right here. Accord, it's heading in the right direction, but the problem is the production still hasn't moved over to their Indiana plant. It's still sharing production in the Ohio plant with the TLX and the Integra. All right, Civic up 9%. That's what we needed to see. It's still a little bit lower. You got to keep in mind, Civic has been on stop sale due to recalls. Those stop sales are ending. Fuel pump recalls. I'm hearing other recalls are happening too. One coming out tomorrow, possibly for some drivetrain issues, maybe some transmission issues. So Civic has got its work cut out for it in terms of sales because the recalls are really affecting that model. And it could be affected, right? There's also the steering recall. There's a lot of recalls out for Honda right now. Recalls are okay. Some of you are saying, hey, that means the brand's no longer reliable. Not necessarily. It's just that, well, they're not slow to fix the problems with their vehicles. A lot of other manufacturers, especially the non-Japanese manufacturers, will wait till there's a lawsuit or wait till the NHTSA pulls them over and forces them to do a recall. Honda, Toyota, they're typically right on top. Typically, no company's perfect, but they're typically a little bit more proactive on issuing recalls, getting out ahead of the issue before crap hits the fan. All right. So I would not hesitate to be buying a Honda right now just because there are recalls out. All right. Anyways, most of those are voluntary recalls, not mandatory recalls from the NHTSA or a lawsuit or whatever. All right. HRV still selling quite well, up 18% on the month, up 27% on the year. Just need a hybrid on the HRV. I'm still driving the 2025 Honda Odyssey. It is so good, so smooth. I drove it's about 11, 12 years old now, my 2013 Sienna. Man, that thing feels ancient and cheap built compared to the Odyssey. And the fourth generation Sienna is a little bit better than the third gen, seemingly in terms of build quality and overall solidity of the vehicle. Anyways, the Odyssey doesn't have any of those issues. It feels like a luxury car with sliding doors, which makes it even more luxurious. It feels like an Acura. And in fact, the engine is smoother than the Odyssey than it is in the Acura MDX, even though it's the same engine, I believe, right? 3.5 liter single overhead cam. All right, let's move forward. Passport down 8%, but again, they're coming out with a new Passport. They're switching over production, and I should be driving it early next year, so stay tuned for that. Pilot, holy cow. Pilot's printing money for Honda right now, up 40% roughly on the month, up 28% on the year. Prologue still selling. Look at, they sold 25,000 Prologues this year. That is almost more than the Passport. Ridgeline down 13%. Now I cannot wait for the redesign of the Ridgeline, even though the truck was just barely up on the month, down on daily selling rate. Like, if the Ridgeline gets the same sort of attention to design and ruggedness that the Passport's getting, I think the Ridgeline's going to be an amazing pickup truck. And if it gets a hybrid, oh my gosh, don't get me excited. Let's look into some of their hybrids now, because they do post that finally. The Accord hybrid's down 15%. You got to keep in mind the production is dropped there due to the shared assembly line in Ohio as they get ready for BEVs and hybrid, other hybrid design. And possibly, I've heard rumors that the Prelude will be built there in Ohio. So, all right, Civic hybrid. I just reviewed it. I wish it was a little bit more efficient, but the trade-off is that it's by far the most fun to drive hybrid in its segment. All right, so you drop efficiency. It's a little bit more sport, a lot more sporty than its competition. All right, so the Civic hybrid, can't recommend it enough, especially if you prioritize fun driving dynamics. CR-V hybrid up 14%. That's about flat on the year. They're about maxed out on CR-V hybrid. It's about 50%. They typically tell us 54%. That number, it should be 100%, because I don't really recommend the Accord or the CR-V non-hybrids. The hybrids are just so good, so smooth, so refined, and very efficient. Not nearly as efficient, or should I say, not to the ultimate efficiency as Toyota's hybrids, but Toyota's hybrids aren't quite as smooth. All right, what else? Let's move to Acura. Integra is down. Again, like the Accord, the Integra and the TLX are going to be down. And I think, gosh, look at the sales. Look at the sales of the TLX. This pains me to see. They've only sold 7,000 TLXs this year. I don't know what the future is of that vehicle. I mean, they could come out with a fully battery electric sedan. That's a possibility. That could replace the TLX, but the 3-liter V6 turbo would just be in the MDX Type S. All right, I feel like it has to be in more than one vehicle. It's a really good engine. I wish it was in the Integra. That would be so cool. I wish it was in the RDX, especially that 3-liter turbo, but I digress. So the TLX, Integra, both in the dumps due to the cut in production. MDX, well, it's not having a good year, minus 14%, and it's on a refresh. So you'd think refresh would bring some people in. They got rid of the touchpad, updated the looks a little bit, but yeah, the MDX Type S is the only MDX I kind of recommend, to be honest. The standard MDX is the engine. For some reason, the V6 is very unrefined in it, and I don't understand why. Because it's the same engine in the Ridgeline and the Odyssey, and the engine's buttery smooth in those cars. And they have, well, at least the Odyssey has the same transmission as the MDX at 10-speed. So I don't know what's going on there with the standard MDX. It feels like a completely different vehicle than the MDX Type S when you drive them. All right, MDX, though, is having an okay month, okay finish to the year. It's not where Acura probably wants it to be. RDX down 8% on the month. It's up 12% on the year. So RDX still doing fairly well for them. And the ZDX has sold about 5,000 units, a fifth of what the Prologue has, but the Prologue's a lot more affordable. I have seen a few ZDXs and Prologues driving in my area. So there you have it. Honda doing quite well and finishing the year strong. What about Mazda? Marks 7th consecutive month for sales gains. Again, Mazda's up 20.6% compared to last November. Best November ever with over 33,000 units sold. Best November for CX-30, CX-50, and the MX-5 had its best November since 2006. Hell yeah. I just posted a short on the 2025 MX-5. Go ahead and check that out. It's getting a 35th anniversary edition and the Artisan Red paint color from the CX-90. All right, let's get into the individual models. We're going to focus on not DSR, so it's flip-flopped from the Honda. We're going to focus on this right here, which is year-over-year change. Year-to-date on the right, month-to-date on the left. Mazda 3 up 31% on the month, 24% on the year. The Mazda 3 is back and selling really well, especially the sedan, up 65% on the month. Let's go down to the MX-5, best November since 2006, they said, up 77% on the month. It's still down on the year, but it looks like they got the production figured out now on the MX-5, one of my favorite vehicles in the world. CX-30 up 11% on the month, up 22% on the year. CX-30 doing what it needs to do. CX-5 is still down on the month, down on the year. They need to get this. I actually have one this week for review, so stay tuned for it. But it's getting long in the tooth. It's still a fantastic vehicle, and I like the CX-5 in many ways over the CX-50. But the CX-50 now is the hybrid, so that has a big pulling for me because you guys know I really enjoy the efficiency of a hybrid overall and the smoothness, especially at a stop. So, all right, CX-50 up nearly 80% on the month, up about 89% on the year. They got the production up in the Huntsville, Alabama plant, which is beneficial because the CX-50 volume here, for whatever reason, is down. I don't know if they're not sending quite as many because of the production on the CX-50 is so good now. That's my guess, is that they don't want to oversaturate this market because the CX-5 and the CX-50 occupy the exact same market. All right, it's a bizarre choice for Mazda. And then you can even say the CX-70 occupies a similar market, a two-row crossover. How many two-row crossovers do you need, Mazda? It's working for them. Their sales don't lie, right? CX-70, it's hard to compare because we haven't had it on sale for a year yet. But the CX-90 sales are down on the month, 3%, but up on the year, 90%, because this is the first full years of sales for the CX-90. But overall, Mazda ticking right along, up about 19% on the year, up about 21% on the month as we move on to Subaru. 28 consecutive months of yearly month-over-month growth. I think it was Consumer Reports or JD Power, one of the two. Just kind of came out that Subaru is the most reliable brand in America. I'll have to make a separate video on that, but Subaru crushing it. Record November as sales are up 8.2%. Best ever November for Crosstrek and Solterra, and year-to-date sales up 5.5%. Well done, Subaru. Let's see what's trailblazing here. Ascent having a good month, not a good year. BRZ having a good month, not a good year. Crosstrek just slaying it. This is their best-selling vehicle. The market has spoken. Look at the sales volume here, up 13% on the month, up 15% on the year. They've sold 165,000 units or so through November. Absolutely impressive. Forester, not that far behind, about 6,000 units behind the Crosstrek at 158,000 units, but not a very strong November. Still strong, but not as good as November last year, as it's still up about 16% year over year. Impreza had a good month. It's still down to 12% on the year. Legacy, rest in peace, is not worth mentioning. Outback, 14% positive on a month, which is the best month, I guess, besides the WRX, but best month for Subaru and the BRZ. Okay, so I take that back. It's doing really well, though, for November, and it's doing extremely well on the year, up 4% and selling over 150,000 units so far. Solterra, up 42% on the year, up 13% on the month. It's a really good lease car if you can get it for a cheap lease. It's smooth, it's quiet, it feels like it's built really well. I'm driving the Chevy Equinox EV this week. I like the Solterra more than it, and the BZ4X. That sounds terrible, but it's not. Just wait for my review on the Equinox. It's just okay, and like if you just have an okay EV, it's not good enough. It really has to blow my socks off. And it's just very appliancey and doesn't feel as well built as a Solterra, that Equinox. I think the Equinox built in Mexico, Solterra built in Japan. Okay. All right. WRX up 23% on the month, not doing so hot on the year. So very good to see Subaru doing well. Now we're getting into the Koreans also crushing it. Best ever total retail November sales. Total sales are up 8%. Retail's up 15%. Year over year, retail sales of EVs jumped 77%, and hybrid retail sales up 104%. Holy cow. Okay, look at all the awards they're winning. They like really bragging about the awards they win. Let's get into this. Ioniq, we'll get into that. Elantra, neutral on the year. It's up 30% on the month. We need cheaper cars. The Elantra and the Elantra, I love the Elantra hybrid. It's really, really good. Super efficient. 65 miles per gallon is what I saw. Ioniq 5, selling, what's my favorite EV still. Equinox doesn't come close in my opinion. Ioniq 5 up 110% on the month, up 30% on the year. Ioniq 6, well, sedans, right? Even the Model 3 is not doing well. The Ioniq 6, it costs about the same as Ioniq 5. There are some lease deals, but the problem with the Ioniq 6, it just looks so crazy. And if you don't want a crazy looking vehicle, and the Ioniq 5 is already edgy enough, Ioniq 6 is bonkers looking. If you don't like it, I think that's the biggest reason why its sales are not doing that hot. It's also a sedan. All right. Has great range though. Kona, surprised it's down on the month, but it's up on the year. Palisade down 2% on the month. We should be getting a new Palisade. You guys ask me this all the time. New Palisade, new Telluride, hopefully revealed in the first half of 2025. But these things absolutely are mints, making money for the Koreans, these large 3-row crossovers. Santa Cruz, minus 0%. That's funny. I guess technically it's minus. It's down 3 units compared to last November. Santa Cruz still needs a hybrid. If it had a hybrid, it would be printing money. Santa Fe, down 8% on the month, minus 11% on the year. Santa Fe hybrid is definitely the way to go there. Sonata, up 200% on the month, 46% on the year. Love the Sonata hybrid. I haven't driven the Refresh hybrid yet, but time will tell. I really liked it. It's just not quite as efficient as the Camry, and it's more expensive than the Camry hybrids as well. Tucson, minus 6%. This is a huge volume seller for them. You can see it even outsells the Santa Fe by about 80,000 units. It has about 90,000 more units than the Palisade. The Tucson, down a little bit on the year, down a little bit on the month, but still massive volume. The Venue, I heard this vehicle is going to be canceled for the United States, down 11%, down 13%. Let's finish up with Kia. Record November sales, an increase of 20% compared to last year. Best total sales in company history. All-time best any month sales for the Telluride. Again, these 3-row not EVs, 3-row crossovers, printing money for the Koreans. Best November for Kia utility and electrified options. All right. Well, I'm not going to get into year-over-year differences, but let's look at the EV9. EV9 has sold 20,000 units so far this year. If we looked at the Honda Prologue, that's a 2-row EV, but that's just what's fresh on my memory. That has sold about 25,000 units. EV9 costs a lot more than the Prologue, typically. All right, EV6, really solid EV here, up about 2,000 units versus last year, having a solid November. Look, the EV9 is outselling the EV6. Rio, rest in peace. Kia K4 replacing the Rio, kind of replacing the Forte, right? The Forte should be in here. Kia Forte. Oh, I guess it's included with the K4. All right, so there you have it. Huge volume. Oh my gosh, the K4 and Forte has sold 127,000 units. Bravo. We need more affordable cars. The K4 is a good sedan. I haven't driven it yet, but I'm going to say it's a good sedan, and we need more sedans out there, in my opinion. K4 up 11,000 units. It's up about 1,000, 1,200 units or so compared to last year. K5 is dwindling. It's down about 20,000 units compared to last year. Did have a good month, but I don't know. Now that the K4 is here, I feel like they should just introduce a hybrid into the K4 and call it a day and kill off the K5. Because the K4 is, well, it's designed for the North American market, to my understanding, and it replaces a Rio, it replaces a Forte. They just need to have one Swiss Army knife of a sedan, and the K4 has gotten bigger than the Forte, so they can just kill off the K5 in my opinion. Where Hyundai, I want them to keep the Elantra and the Sonata. Stinger, rest in peace. Soul, I heard this is going to be discontinued for the North American market at some point, but it's still selling at a pretty good clip here. Kia Niro. I don't know why the sales are down on the Niro, as hybrids are hot AF right now on the market, but it's just not doing as well compared to last year. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe you guys can riddle me that. Seltos up just minorly on the year, but it didn't have that great of a November. But the Seltos, not quite sure why. And I think this volume should be higher here. What is the Kona at? Let's go look at the Kona again. The Kona sells 20,000 more units than the Seltos. The Kona's a little bit newer, and it feels a little bit bigger on the inside, so maybe that's why. Sportage, look at the volume here. This is their cash cow. Like Hyundai's Tucson, we go back to the Tucson. Tucson selling 185,000 units. The Sportage selling 146,000 units. Sportage just got a refresh for 2025. A little bit different looking front end. It looks more like the Sorrento's front end, as well as the kind of like the refreshed Carnival's front end. But yeah, the Sportage doing really, really well here. Minor power boost on the hybrid. And let's get into the Sorrento. Big numbers here. Up 5,000 units on the year. Having a huge November, up about 2,000 units. I'll get into the Telluride. Again, these 3-row crossovers is printing money, and it's surging at the end of the year here. Carnival, minivan life, up 4,000 units. I really want to drive the Carnival hybrid. It's up about 1,400 units or so, 1,500 units for the month of November. So looking at Kia's total, 723,000 units, which is up just a smidgen compared to last year, and it should be a record year for Kia. And overall for Hyundai, 758,000. So Hyundai still has the slight edge over Kia, but if you look at Kia's sales at 723,000, it's on the coattails of Hyundai 726,000 last year. So Kia is just a very impressive brand. It's crazy how well all these manufacturers are doing. I wish Toyota had a press release for the individual numbers. I could go to a place called like Good Car, Bad Car to talk about the individual numbers, but it's like a 40-minute deep dive. Market is very, very healthy right now in North America, but for how long? That is the question. It's looking good though, and I'm sure that the manufacturers are happy. The dealers are super happy right now. Cars are flying off the press like they were back in 2019 to an extent. It's looking good. So it gives me a lot of hope going into 2025, but I don't know how long this wave is going to be ridden, right? You have other manufacturers like Stellantis. You have other manufacturers like Nissan. Their sales are down. Production's being cut for those brands. I'll see you in the next one. So much news coming out this time of the year as the year is ending, and I am excited to bring it to you. Make sure you subscribe. And also, if you made it this far in the video and haven't subscribed to my second channel, Kreifel Cycles, focusing on two-wheel news and doing moto vlogs and that sort of fun stuff, check out that motorcycle content on Kreifel Cycles. Thank you, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.